And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What's up, RBLR Nation? How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a good week. We're coming at you. You know, we're not the usual guys. We're kind of we joked it before the show, the September call-ups. I don't know which one of us is the pitcher or the hitter that RBLR got to call up for September. But we were on the 40-man roster, and, you know, our contract got selected to go up to the majors, or however that all works. But anyways, that's a very long segue. My name's Carter Brantley. I'm usually the host of the Buck Show, but this week I'm hopping on, and me and my boy Pat Davenport, you've read him. You've heard him in the show previously. He's coming all the way across the pond, as they say. Sorry, that was a horrible British accent. I won't do it again for the rest of the show. Say what's up to the people, Pat.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Pat. Like you said, you've probably heard me before or read me before. I'm feeling a lot like Zach Littell today, where at the start of the season, I never would have dreamed that I was part of such a good rotation of hosts. But yet, somehow, I got the call, and here I am filling in for some big September games here.
That's right. And speaking of Zach Littell, man, what a beautiful segue. He was dominant last night, or 2 nights ago, excuse me, against the Seattle Mariners. He was just wonderful. Unfortunately, he got saddled with the loss, but those are team stats anyways. We don't pay attention to those. But, 7 innings, 1-run ball. You just can't really ask for more out of a starter. And Glasnow obviously had his own little dominant performance, but that's Tyler Glasnow. We've come to expect that from him. But speaking of Zach Littell, he's been a huge addition, obviously, with all the pitching rotation injuries. He's really needed to step up, and he has done so in a huge way. So has he been the biggest and most pleasant surprise of the season for you, Pat?
Absolutely. He's definitely got to be at least up there. He's been absolutely incredible. And, 7 innings, 1-run ball is always just a start you could always take with you. And he is not just done it against any team. Those Seattle Mariners have been so hot coming into that series with the Rays. They were the team to beat in August. They were they're now in the playoff picture. Their lineup and rotation are all just clicking on all cylinders. And he did get a tough luck 1-0 loss there. It's like a soccer score there. Right. But he's been awesome. And the job that Kyle Snyder's done, that the Rays pitching staff have done with him, has been tremendous. And he's just been one of those guys that has managed to step up and get the job done when we've been strapped to pitches and injuries. He's definitely my top guy in terms of surprises this season. Would you feel the same?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously there have been a lot of kind of pleasant surprises for the Rays this year. When you get the record that they have, you don't just have your solid contributors and then no one else. You have to have a whole team effort. It's baseball, but especially this year. Luke Raley's been up there. Obviously, he's been fantastic. A great left-handed power bat when everyone was complaining, and myself included, kind of worried about the fact that the Rays had a very right-handed heavy lineup. And I was like, well, Luke Raley, I mean, he doesn't really have a proven track record. And of course, he told me to, shove that proven track record somewhere. So good for him. He's having a fantastic season. Josh Lowe, obviously, he was really hot in August as well. He was scorching, which is, you brought up the Mariners being so hot like in August, because Julio Rodriguez had that stretch there where he was like, the best player ever.
Yeah.
He had just a ridiculous amount of games over a very short span of time, or ridiculous amount of hits over a very short span of time. So he was playing an insane level of baseball. But like you said, Littell came in, shut him down, did a great job. Unfortunately, Luis Castillo is pretty darn good too.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. The Mariners have a really amazing pitching staff. And they've been shutting down a lot of people, but the Rays did break through last night with a victory. They scored a bunch of runs, were able to kind of get back onto the winning ways, and not necessarily just kind of submitting to the Mariners' dominant pitchers, because really 1 through 5, the Mariners do have a fantastic rotation. So it was really nice to see them get back on the horse. And they won 7-4. So, scoring 7 runs is no easy feat. But in this past week, Brandon Lowe had a big time, big blast. I know we We talked about earlier before the show. Zach Blaine is going to have to shave his head because Brandon Lowe's
Yeah.
hitting like he's he's BLowe. He's that dog. So he's been hitting really well. What have you seen that's been different from him lately, or is he maybe just like finally healthy? What are your thoughts on Brandon Lowe's recent success?
Yeah, so I've been breaking down, looking into his numbers between this year and last year, and even 2021 when he had that big breakout year. And you know what? Most of the numbers are pretty consistent, actually. His walk rate is still really high. He remains really, really selective at the plate, which is good. If he's not chasing, that's always excellent, which is something the Rays have had their issues with, particularly in the month of July. But really, I think he's just feeling really comfortable in his swing. His plate discipline's kind of tracked all the way through since 2021 of being really, really strong. He's just now hitting the pitches in the zone with a lot more consistency because I think his swing is feeling better. His back is no longer plaguing him. So I think it is a case of him just being healthy. We saw what a full healthy season of Brandon Lowe looks like in 2021. 39 bombs, maybe the best second baseman in the whole of baseball when he's on his game. He's been showing that the past couple of months. But yeah, he's just super selective. He knows what he can hit. He knows what he can't. And his numbers have remained pretty consistent over this past 3 year stretch. I just think he's feeling far more comfortable in his swing and getting far more consistent reps, which is the key for pretty much any of these Rays hitters. As long as they're staying disciplined in their approach, they're going to succeed at the major league level because the tools are all there.
Absolutely. There's never been any doubt with Brandon Lowe's talent. It's always just been, like you said, a measure of him getting healthy and being comfortable. But Brandon Lowe's a very, I don't want to say polarizing figure in Rays fandom, but he's definitely got his share of supporters and his share of detractors, shall we say. And he's been hot lately, so the detractors have been very, very quiet, we shall say. But I think you need to land somewhere in the nothing's ever black and white. He's maybe not as good as his supporters say, but he's certainly not as bad as his detractors say. He's somewhere in the middle because when he's hot, he looks like a left-handed Jeff Kent, one of the one of the best power hitting second basemen ever. But man, when he's not, it's like it's just tough because he submits some horrible at bats when he's not looking right. But when he is looking right, I mean, my goodness, like you said, probably the best second baseman in baseball. So yeah, I don't know, but he's in that stretch right now, and it seems like he's coming back to being more consistent and more about he just looks more comfortable up there. He's not slouching because a lot of the time when he struggles, he kind of walks off the field and he just looks down. He doesn't look like a guy that's comfortable up there. Like you said, his health is back and his back is finally healthy. So he looks great up there, and it's really wonderful to see. Obviously, the Rays are a much better team with Brandon Lowe in the lineup healthy, and he's showing it. So it's been fantastic to see. So looking kind of more big picture, because obviously this season we talked about Zach Littell being such a big surprising contributor, but obviously there have been some really solid contributors that maybe we didn't necessarily expect from the bullpen, just because the starting pitching, the starting rotation's gotten banged up. The bullpen has had to kind of step up and eat quite a few innings. Towards the second half of the season, especially, they've been able to do a lot more bullpen days. So Robert Stephenson, or Bob Stephenson, however you want to say his name, he had a very fun inning last Saturday against Cleveland. He struck out the side, and he did it on 9 pitches, but it was broken up by an intentional walk. It was also an extra inning, so there was already a runner on second. So officially, it's not labeled an immaculate inning. But Pat, settle the debate, man. Is this still an immaculate inning in your eyes?
Yes, I'm going to say yes. It's still an immaculate inning because as far as what he controlled, he got the immaculate inning. He didn't get to pick. I'm sure if Bob Steve got to decide if he was going to intentionally walk the guy in front of him or not, he would have been like, let me at him. I can take him. Right. So I think from as far as what he can control, he got 3 strikeouts on 9 pitches and got every batter he officially faced out. I'm sure there'll be people that disagree with that, but I think it's one of those where he did everything that he could in his control to get an immaculate inning. So I'm gonna take the win where I can get it. I don't know about you. What do you think?
I mean, it's very like kind of tongue in cheek and silly, but yeah, I think he deserves the immaculate inning label. He didn't throw any. He only threw 9 pitches. Like if it's weird because before the rules about the intentional walk where they had to throw the 4 balls to the catcher holding out his hand and stuff like that, maybe I would have fudged a little bit. But now the intentional walk's just like, hey, go take first, big guy. Like we don't want to pitch to you. So I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I think that he deserves the immaculate inning label. Yeah, I mean, plus Robert Stephenson also, all jokes aside, he's been fantastic out of the bullpen. They got him from Pittsburgh, and he's been really, really fun to watch.
Is it bold to say that he is, over this very short sample of his time with the Rays, this is going to get clipped and I'm going to get clowned on, but it's almost like Mariano Rivera-esque. I'm telling you, he's throwing so many cutters since he's joined the Rays. He's just cutter, and it's become unhittable. He throws probably one of the best cutters in all of baseball this year, and he is giving all of his opposing hitters fits, and he stopped throwing a traditional fastball. It's gone way down between this year and last year. He's much more of a cutter guy now, and that's proven to be so effective. The only bad news is he's a free agent at the end of the year, and he might have priced himself out of being a Ray.
Yeah, yeah, those that's how it goes. Unfortunately, that's the business. But yeah, that cutter's been filthy. I don't know if I'd go all the way to Mariano-esque, but that's definitely a bold take. I'm sure Yankees fans will start screaming, "Oh, 27," the usual stupid arguments that they come up with. But no, yeah, Bob's been great. He's been fantastic. Really a hidden gem. We love to talk about those on the Buck shows. But yeah, he's really been kind of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, because if the Bucks are trading for the Rays are trading for a pitcher, then that means that they're probably going to be pretty darn good. That's just how it works nowadays. So it's just not really a surprise, but for Robert, I'm sure it's been a really nice kind of breath of fresh air. So I don't know, maybe he will be back. I mean, obviously, like you said, he's a free agent. But if you have a relatively large amount of success with a franchise, then maybe you want to come back, give yourself another year under Kyle Snyder's tutelage and stuff like that, because then you can parlay it into maybe a bigger payday the following season. We'll just have to see how that all plays out. But obviously, would love to have Robert Stephenson back. Like you said, that cutter's been filthy, and he's been really, really good. So speaking of the kind of the Rays taking advantage of market inefficiencies, even more big picture than that, the Rays have had a lot of lopsided deals over the years go their way. And obviously a lot of their lineup and their rotation and bullpen kind of comes from just trades. They don't necessarily, it seems like they don't necessarily draft as much as a lot of teams. They develop prospects as much as any other team, but it seems like a lot of their impact players come through the trades. So this season, just looking at this year, because obviously if you look into the future, then maybe you can get into some other trades. But just for this season, what has been the most impactful lopsided deal, so to speak, that the Rays have had over the years?
It's really close between 2 deals for me. The first one is a trade that was made all the way back in 2019, which was a 3-way deal, where we acquired Yandy Diaz from the Cleveland Guardians in exchange for Jake Bauers and cash. Edwin Encarnacion and Carlos Santana moved in that deal as well. But the main bottom line for the Rays was we got Yandy Diaz for Jake Bauers and cash, is the way it works. And Yandy Diaz is in the MVP discussion, probably not going to win MVP this year simply because Shohei Ohtani exists, and that locks up the MVP race for the next decade or something like that.
For sure.
But Yandy Diaz has been the best first baseman in the American League pretty easily this year. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. He's always been excellent at the discipline side of things. He's always has such a command of the strike zone. He always knows what's in and out of the zone, excellent at taking his walks. And then the quality of his contact has always been elite as well. Whenever he hits the ball, he uses those massive biceps of his to absolutely annihilate baseballs. The key difference now is he's starting to hit for a bit more of a higher launch angle. He's starting to hit those more home runs. He's already at the most he's had in a single season, and you'll probably get a couple more before the season is out. Hopefully he can maybe get to 20 before the year is out as well, which would be awesome for him. So he can do it all at first base. So he's been absolutely outstanding. And if we're talking about the lopsidedness of the deal, Jake Bauers, he's not with Cleveland anymore. He's bounced around, become a bit of a journeyman, found a bit of a home with the Yankees this year, surprisingly enough. But yeah, he's really kind of struggled at the big league level. And I remember being very mixed receptions to that deal back when it happened in 2019. Mm-hmm. Everyone was very high on Jake Bauers. He was a top 100 prospect at the time.
For sure.
But he's struggled at the major league level. The other deal that I think is super important, and is the Archer deal, is still paying dividends to this day. Yeah. Even though Bars has been injured and we've not really got to really see a large sample size from him. Tyler Glasnow, of course, 14 strikeouts his last time out. He's kind of emerged as one of the leaders of this pitching staff when healthy. And then we had an all-star season out of Austin Meadows, which we then parlayed into our current excellent third baseman, Isaac Paredes. And oh my goodness, what a acquire he has been.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I feel like we're going to be talking about that dang Chris Archer trade for the rest of time, because it's just going to be a constant, like, well, even if like Glasnow's pitching really well, but maybe the Rays trade him and then they trade him for more things, or maybe they trade Paredes for more things, or blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's just been an endless cascade of like good things that have come from that Archer deal. So I think it is a really tough decision between both of those, because like you said, Jake Bauers has not panned out, unfortunately. And I remember, like you said, it was a controversial trade a bit at the time, because Yandy Diaz, I mean, who would heard of Yandy Diaz in 2019? He was kind of a no-name corner infielder, more known for his physique than his actual play on the field. Yeah. He was I think he was in a Men's Fitness article or something, because he's just, he's Yoked Yandy. That's who he is.
Yeah.
But he had never really produced at the major league level. Obviously, the Rays saw something with his exit velocity or his barrel percentage, one of those peripheral stats, as they call it, although those are becoming more important than anything else. But regardless, they saw something that they liked, and it's really obviously panned out. Because, he's a career very much above average hitter. Like, he's got that 125 career OPS plus, but obviously this year it's taken a big leap forward. He's jumped into the 146 OPS plus, 889 total. But, so he is far above league average right now. Plus he's doing it out of the leadoff spot, which I think is just so cool, so impressive. It's weird. This season has really become kind of the year the leadoff hitter. It's like Marcus Semien, Ronald Acuna Jr. Obviously, Mookie Betts has been a mainstay in the leadoff spot for pretty much his whole career. And Yandy Diaz. I mean, it's just a huge crop of really elite leadoff hitters that don't really just get on base. Like, they hit the crap out of the ball. Mookie Betts is on pace for, I think he's going to crack 40 home runs this year. Yandy Diaz is obviously, he's got the extra base hits. He's slugging almost 500, which is fantastic. So, it's been really fun to watch him blossom in Tampa. And obviously they re-signed him to that 3-year extension. And then he turned around and said, you know what? I feel good about that. Thanks, y'all. And then he has, a season where he's arguably one of the best first basemen in baseball. So yeah, I'm with you. The Diaz Bauers trade for this season has certainly been the most impactful. But like you said, that Archer deal, it might be the most impactful deal the Rays ever make, just because of how much it's definitely going to continue to pay dividends. But one of the best deals that you guys can find, our listeners, is the shop.rblrsports.com. They have some amazing deals on there. We also have a promo code for you, Flappy, FLAPPY. 10% off everything, 10% off your order at shop.rblrsports.com. We got Rays stuff, we got Buck stuff, we got Lightning, we got Rowdies, we got it all. If you're looking for some bring back the devil shirts, definitely check it out. I know those are probably one of our best sellers because, I mean, hey, everyone misses those Devil Rays eras because, you know, those are just some cool ass uniforms. But anyways, after that shameless shop plug, we'll get back into the meat and potatoes of our show. So what are your thoughts on the remaining schedule? I know that, you know, the Rays are competing for a wild card spot. Well, I don't want to say they've got the wild card spot locked up because anything can happen. So I'll say they're competing, but they're really competing for the division. You know, Baltimore has been playing out of their minds the whole year. So have the Rays, but unfortunately, Baltimore has it's just been ridiculous how well they've been playing. So I don't know if they're just going to be able to catch them just because Baltimore is that good. But regardless, all that aside, how do you feel about the remaining schedule? I know they're in the middle of a 17-game stretch, like just 17 straight games. Do you think that's going to beat them up too much, or do you still feel confident the Rays will be able to finish strong?
Yeah, I think the Rays are still going to finish strong. I think you hit the nail on the head of how frustrating it has been how good the Orioles have been this year because the Rays, don't get it twisted, this has been an absolutely awesome season for the Rays. Fourth best record in all of baseball, just behind the Dodgers, the Orioles, and the Braves for the best record in the whole of baseball. A frustrating stat that I heard just today was that over the last 20 games, the Braves and Rays have won 15 of their last 20 games. Oh my gosh, amazing. We'll take that over any 20-game stretch.
Absolutely.
There has been one team that has won 16 games over that 20-game stretch, and it's been the Orioles. And it's just like, oh my gosh, Orioles, could you lose one time? So over the past week, we've actually lost a game and a half in the standings to the Orioles, despite winning all our series. It's so frustrating. Yeah. All the Rays can do is handle their business, and that's what they're continuing to do. It's been a big topic on this podcast pretty much all season, how the schedule has been a bit wild for the Rays. They've never really been able to settle down because of the amount of rainouts that has been uncharacteristic considering we play under a dome, but it felt like early in the season, all of our road trips were rains out, so we were doing tons of double headers, postponed games, the constant shifting of start times. So I'm hoping at this point they're kind of used to not getting used to stuff, and the long stretches of games in a row is something that they're kind of just used to now. When it comes to the remaining schedule, of course, we finish the weekend against the Mariners before heading on to what is our penultimate, but most important road trip of the year, going up against the Twins for 3 and then the Orioles for 4. That's it. That's the last chance to catch the division. 3 out of 4 is going to be needed to have any chance in the division. It's possible. I think we can do it, but it's going to be tough. Otherwise, if we're not catching the division, it's just holding on to that number 4 seed, the top wild card, play at home for that 3-game set, which I think will play extremely pivotal to the Rays postseason chances, is starting it at home because we're so good at home this year. I fancy our chances against any wild card team at the Trop for a 3-game set, but on the road is where it gets more difficult. After the Orioles is a good chance to kind of reset, to kind of regroup, because we're then facing the Angels at home for a 3-game set. The Angels, they're not competing for anything anymore. It's been a really rough 6 weeks out in Anaheim for those guys. So this is a good chance to maybe do a spot start somewhere to try and start aligning the pitching staff so that everyone's on schedule for a potential 3-game or 5-game set, so that you've got Glasnow, Eflin, Savali ready to go for those games. If you need to have a spot start or a bullpen day there, that's probably the time to start lining that up. And then we do Blue Jays, Red Sox, Blue Jays to finish the season. The Blue Jays are very much still in the hunt. They've got games to play for, so they're going to be a tough way to end the season. They may still be in it in that last series. But I think for now, all we can do is take it 1 game at a time, try not to look ahead. It's a playoff set against Baltimore next weekend.
Yeah, that really is a playoff series. Like you said, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, and if they don't take 3 out of 4, it is gonna be really tough sledding for the rest of the season because then you're depending on, other teams in baseball to try to win some games for you instead of just being able to focus on, taking care of business. So like you said, the Rays need at least 3 out of 4. A 4-game sweep would be beautiful, obviously, but yeah, they definitely need 3 out of 4. That's gonna be a key series. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be tough sledding for the rest of the season to catch the Orioles. They've been disgustingly good. Like you said, it's like seems like the Rays will play really well and then the Orioles will play even better, even though you don't even think that there can be a team that plays even better. The Rays or the Orioles figure out a way. But yeah, like you said, the home field advantage is going to be huge. The Rays have been fantastic at home. Not that they've been awful on the road. They've actually been pretty decent, but obviously they've been a lot better at home, which is understandable. You're always comfortable on your home turf. With the Rays, it's literally, they play on that Astro turf or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, yeah, I'm really excited to see how they finish out the season just because, they are going to be playing some really important games. Like you mentioned, those Blue Jays series, obviously the Orioles series we already mentioned. And yeah, the Angels, I mean, good gracious, the rotten luck that team has had. They deal away all their prospects to try to buy and sell or and push their chips in, and then Trout's still hurt. Shohei has the UCL thing. They start struggling again, and then they try to get under the luxury tax, so they clear everyone on waivers, and they still can't do that right. Like Richard got unclaimed, so they're still going to have to pay luxury tax and have a worse record. Anyways, yeah, just a rotten set. Just a rotten season, really, in general for the Angels, other than Shohei Ohtani winning the MVP. But that's baseball. Obviously, the Rays, like I said, have a really important stretch ahead of them. It's September baseball, so it's going to be really important moving forward to just continue to play good baseball, and they've been doing so. So hopefully, they can continue that trend. And speaking of them doing so, who is your bat and arm of the week? We love to have this little segment. So who's your bat and arm of the week, Pat?
Yeah, so my bat of the week is a bat of the week that came a bit out of left field, or maybe to put it more literally from the backstop position. It is Rene Pinto. Rene Pinto is my bat of the week. He has been awesome this week, and he's come up with some real clutch hits. He's hit 3 home runs this week. He's driven in 6, and some of them have been really important, including just last night he came through, and he's been hitting really, really, really good. Behind the plate, his defense has been questioned a lot by Rays fans just because of his lateral movement, because he does that setup on one knee. But he's more than held his own, and you can see that he's starting to become the primary option behind the plate. And I think next year it's his job to lose for the Rays. So great to see Rene Pinto coming on. What about your bat of the week?
For sure, yeah. Renee's definitely a great pick, but I had to go with Brandon Lowe. I mean, he had that big time walk-off bomb, and he also had another home run against the Mariners. So he's just been fantastic as of late. Because I don't want to say I was a detractor of Brandon Lowe, but I was definitely having doubts, not necessarily about him as the player, but just about him getting healthy. And now he's gotten healthy, and good gracious, he has really, really, really taken off. And yeah, he had a fantastic week, which has just been really great to see, because if Brandon Lowe's hitting well, then the Rays are probably winning a lot of games. That's just how it is. So it's been really exciting to see him do well. So now we'll move on to the arm of the week. I'll go first on this one. I'll say mine arm of the week is Zach Littell. He just, like we mentioned already, he pitched really well against the Mariners, and like that, they've been scorching. So to go in and throw 7 innings, 1 run is just really, really impressive. So I had to give him a shout out. So that's my arm of the week, Zach Littell. How about you, Pat? Who's your arm of the week?
Yeah, Littell is absolutely a deserving arm. He's been so awesome and has stepped up for some big games. I'm going to give it to Tyler Glasnow, who absolutely carved through that Red Sox lineup earlier. He went with 14 strikeouts over just 6 innings, which is absolutely nuts. It's up there with one of the more dominant starts in Rays history. It's only happened, I think, 2 times before in Rays history that someone's got 14 strikeouts or more in a game, 2 or 3 times. So he's put himself right there in the pantheon of all-time great Rays performance in terms of just sheer dominance, and picked up a big win, of course, in a September game. So both those arms have been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Glass now. What more can you say about the guy? He's just ever since Oppenheimer came out, it seems like he's just been doing really well. I guess those box office dividends are just going in his pocket, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna start pitching well too." But yeah,
He
that's
has
just
become death, destroyer of
that's
lineups.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh man, yeah, he's been really really fantastic, and obviously that performance against the Red Sox was just pure dominance. So that was really fun to watch. But we mentioned a little bit previously. Obviously, the Rays are competing for a wild card spot. And who, if let's say that the Rays do end up as the wild card, who would you want them to face in that wild card series?
Oh, that's a really tricky question. They're all tough teams in their own right. I think right now, I think the team that I have the lowest opinion of out of those Rangers, Blue Jays, Mariners, I think are probably the most likely wildcard teams. The lowest opinion I have is currently of the Blue Jays. Um, I think the Blue Jays, the Rays have a lot of familiarity with that team. They know them well. I think they've got a lineup that has looked awesome at times, but has times been a bit inconsistent. They've lost Bo Bichette. I think it's unlikely that he's going to be back for the postseason, which is huge because he was giving us fits at times. And then their rotation is also really good, but I think we can match them pound for pound in terms of those front three guys for a 3-game set. So I would like to face the Blue Jays because those Mariners, we just have horrible games against the Mariners whenever they happen. So I don't want to do that. And then Texas, I just get scared of Max Scherzer starting game one. And again, they've been on a slide recently, but I don't know. There's something about them that could be really explosive. Who is your preferred matchup?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's between Texas or the Blue Jays. Like you said, I want for the Rays, I want no part of the Mariners. Yeah, so either the Blue Jays or the Rangers would be fine. But if I had to choose one of them, I think I'd go Texas, just because, like you said, their slide has been tough. They have looked really, really bad recently. And you did mention Max Scherzer, who obviously has had some elite postseason performances. But my kind of not counter argument to it, because Scherzer is dominant. It's just their bullpen is horrible. I mean, one of the worst bullpens in baseball. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been really, really tough to watch. So Scherzer could go out there and throw 7 innings, beautiful baseball, and then the bullpen could come in and blow it all up. So it's just kind of tough. Even with their amazing lineup and their pretty solid pitching rotation, their bullpen has just been really, really bad. I don't know.
We know
Maybe
what
they
we're doing. We know what we're doing against Aroldis Chapman as well, especially in the
right.
postseason. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Aroldis Chapman's got some good playoff history against the Rays from the Rays perspective. So yeah, that'd be exciting to see another, electrifying home run against Aroldis Chapman. But yeah, I mean, it's just tough. I'd be interested to see if they maybe try to convert one of their starters back to the bullpen. I know Eovaldi's got some experience coming out of the pen in the postseason. He obviously had that really amazing performance in the World Series against the Dodgers in Boston. So I'd be interested to see how that plays out. But as it stands right now, definitely would rather see Texas over the Mariners and probably over the Blue Jays. But I certainly see your argument that the Blue Jays are also a little bit risky when it comes to that kind of stuff. The American League stuff, there's going to be some teams that are really good that miss the postseason in the American League, and the National League. There's some teams in there that are going to sneak in with that wild card that I don't know if they deserve it. So it's been a weird season in that regard. But yeah, of the American League wild card teams, those are definitely the two I think we'd rather face. But some more recent news was definitely in minor league baseball. They've kind of updated their automatic strike zone, or the ABS as they call it, automatic balls and strikes. So, for next season, kind of taking a more of a broader baseball perspective, how do you feel about, give me some thoughts on the ABS, or the automated strike zone? How would you feel about it being implemented next season or moving forward? And how much would you want it to be implemented?
I cannot wait for an automatic strike zone. I mean, just that series against Cleveland last week, we had one of the worst called games probably this season, and there are some guys in that umpire rotation that are not it, Chief. They're just missing calls left, right, and center. I really like the idea that the umpire gets the final say, but they are given assistance on the old buzzer, whether it's a strike or not. I think that there's a kind of fun balance happening there. And I know you mentioned that it's kind of been updated, that it can be edited based on where the catcher is setting up as well, which I think is a really interesting tidbit there. I believe there's also going in the minor league, they're trialing a challenge system for balls and strikes.
I've seen it. Yep.
That could get very, very interesting there as well, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hot-headed managers and players. I think manager ejections are going to skyrocket off the back of that. But an interesting point about balls and strikes that I've noticed is, according to umpire scorecards, who you may have seen on Twitter every now and then, the Rays are currently fifth from bottom in terms of umpire favor so far this season. They have had the fifth most big calls go against them this season through umpiring. Only the Phillies, Astros, A's, and Nats have had worse umpire bias against them this year. So trust me, Rays fans, you are not hallucinating. The calls have been, for the most part, been going against the Rays this year. So it'll be so much nicer to leave it out of that kind of subjective viewpoint of an umpire and make it far more objective, because we want to win our games fairly, right? We all want to make sure that we've got a level playing field. So the more that we can help out our team by not having the calls go against us, the better. How frustrating have umpires been for you this season, Carl?
I've actually had a little bit of experience. Like, I went to umpire school and stuff like that. So for me, I always take a bit of a step back and think like, well, umpires aren't out there trying to screw calls up. They're out there doing their best, and it's certainly really, really difficult, a really, really difficult job. So from that perspective, I know that just from my time at umpire school, all the major league umpires that we spoke to, hugely in favor of this. They want to get the calls right just as much as anyone. And it's not like it's taken away a job, because the home plate umpires still got to make the calls at home. Now it's the time clock. They've got to make pitch clock violation calls. So there's still a lot to do from the home plate umpire perspective, even without crouching down 300 or 400 times a game to make balls and strike calls. So everything that I've heard has been really exciting about this development. I love the challenge system, because I actually went to a minor league game a couple months ago, and I actually had a buddy that I went to umpire school with who was behind the plate that night, and it seemed really smooth. They just, hey, we want to take a look at that, and then he just looked up there, and then that was it. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't drawn out or anything. I don't think it would affect pace of play that much. I don't know. Like you said, I think the system of kind of having the umpire have the final say would be kind of nice, but I don't know that they'll get quite there yet next year. I think they might kind of start implementing the challenge system just to kind of introduce it, and then just kind of get their feet wet with it. And then maybe in 2025, we'll see them implement the full on, all right, we're going to have this implemented on every pitch. Because, baseball it's been amazing this season to see all the changes. But it does seem like they're slow to change. The game is definitely more apt to stay the course and to kind of keep things the way they are rather than change it. But like you said, or like I said, the time is now, because all of these changes have been received so well, that maybe baseball decides, hey, the time clock worked out really well. The stolen base thing has been really fun. The shift ban has been really fun. Why not have the strike zone be implemented, the ABS thing? So it'd be really fun to see them implement it. And I think that, it should be something moving forward that should benefit everyone, especially the Rays. Obviously, as you said, they're one of the unluckiest teams in baseball when it comes to umpire calls. So that's sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, it's really interesting that you've been to the umpire school and you've learned how to do it. A quick question. How much do you like or dislike TV broadcasts putting in like a little zone into broadcasts, and how, because they don't always kind of match what the real zone is, right?
Yeah, they do not. You'll look at the Rays broadcast and something will be or a strike right on the outside corner, and you look at the Yankees broadcast and it'll be 6 inches off the plate or something crazy. So yeah, it's tough to it's tough because especially, the announcers are naturally just gonna assume that that's right. So they always say, "Oh, well, he really missed that one," and it's like, "Well, did he? Like, I don't know." So that's kind of tough. But it's also kind of harmless. It's just a TV broadcast. Those
Yeah.
broadcasters, the fans, they don't make the decisions. They don't, they don't impact how much an umpire gets paid or whether he gets fired, whatnot. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't really matter. But that is a great point to bring up. It is really funny to see it kind of play out, and just kind of the ridiculousness of it all. But hopefully moving forward, the automated strike zone could be implemented, and people will kind of talk about it less. That would
Yeah.
be kind of the goal, because no one umpires know, they know when they screw up a call, they go back, they review tape, they want to get better. So they see it, they're not blind to it. They see what's going on. So it's tough. They want to get the calls right. And hopefully this can be a way to kind of cut through all the excess and just get the calls right for everyone. So moving on, I kind of wanted to take another baseball big picture perspective. Who are some teams across the league that maybe you think people are sleeping on as World Series candidates? Because I know that there are a lot of amazing teams, the Rays included, in baseball right now. But maybe there are some teams that are really, really good that no one's talking about. Who's a team that your dark horse World Series candidate? I know that's kind of cliche, but if you had to pick one.
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I'll stray away from all the obvious picks. We know how good the Braves are. We know how good the Dodgers are. The Astros are always in the conversation. A team I really like in a playoff environment are the Arizona Diamondbacks. They currently have a very slim lead on that third wild card lead as of today. They're half a game up on the Marlins. Can't believe they're there.
Yeah.
But I really like the Diamondbacks in a playoff setting purely because they have got that guy, Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen, when you're getting him in game one, or if he's in a decider game like a game 5 or a game 7, I'd back him against any other pitcher in baseball, the Spencer Striders, the Garrett Coles, the Verlanders. I would put him right there with all of those guys at the moment. He's been on fire this season. And when you've got someone that you can rely on to give you 7 innings, 1 run, that's going to be awesome. And then, of course, the Diamondbacks have a really young, promising roster as well, with the likes of Corbin Carroll, loads of players with nothing to lose. I really like them. Do I think they'll go all the way? No. Do I think they could maybe cause an upset in a wild card round or in a divisional series setting? Absolutely. So I'd say keep an eye on the Diamondbacks. How about you, Carter?
Yeah, my team is the Brewers, but I love the Diamondback pick because they've got that kind of that interesting mix of youth, but also a few veterans sprinkled in there in the lineup. They got the Tommy Phams. They even have
Tommy
Longoria,
Pham.
Rays legend. A couple Rays legend if you include Pham. And then they have the Lourdes Gurriels. But like you said, the Corbin Carrolls of the world. Obviously, Carroll was playing at an MVP level to start the year. Geraldo Perdomo and Jordan Lawlar, they just called up their top prospect. Really talented shortstop. And like you said, their rotation, Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen are just the 1-2 combination is dynamite. So really, really good. And then their bullpen's pretty solid too. They traded for Paul Sewald from the Mariners. So they've got a decent back end there. And yeah, I really like the Diamondbacks. Like you said, they bring a lot of energy to the games every day, and they would be a tough out in the playoffs for sure. But my pick's the Brewers just because, the two Central divisions have been so maligned and so publicly kind of, oh God, why do the Central divisions have to have a representative in the playoffs? And I get it. From the AL perspective, for sure, the Twins are not a playoff team. Like, let's be real here. They're not good. So I get it. But from the NL perspective, the Brewers, the Cubs, the Reds, those are 3 pretty solid teams. And the Brewers just have this really good big 3 rotation. They got Carroll, Woodruff, and Peralta. And then their bullpen, they got Devin Williams, another former Ray, Hobie Milner has been really good this year. They've just got a really good bullpen, a really good pitching staff, and they play amazing defense. They have one of the, I
Mhm.
think they have the best defense statistically for outs above average or something in baseball. One of those advanced defensive analytics that I don't know enough about to be talking about, but they're really good. So I'm a really big fan of the Brewers. I think that they have that kind of Rays-esque way of doing things, pitching and defense first,
Definitely.
and have kind of a lot of makeshift pieces in the lineup. So I don't know. It could be really fun to watch. If they get hot, they could really make a lot of noise just because their pitching and defense is not going anywhere. So if their offense maybe gets clicking a little bit, they could really do some interesting things in the postseason. But that's kind of it. That's all we got. We're coming to the end of our episode. We really appreciate y'all tuning in. Ben and Zach, we did y'all proud. They'll be back next week, hopefully. And y'all won't have to listen to us jibber jabber. You can go back to the usual suspects. But we really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you like what you heard, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. And you can follow us at social media at RBLR Sports. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. So check us out there. I'm Carter Brantley, and for Pat Davenport, thank you so much for listening. As always, go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.